Hey guys, welcome back to the Global Business Innovator series on the Chamber Guy. We are with Dominique, the founder and chief operating officer of the Blockchain and Crypto Association of Singapore, as well as the managing director of the Hoffman Agency's Asia Pacific operations. Dominique, thank you for coming back with us. You have a few speaking engagements lined up for this year. Could you tell us about those?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I regularly do a session that is called the AI Primer. The idea
Mm-hmm.
behind it is really overcoming a lot of the overwhelm that a lot of executives feel. It focuses more or less on just the C-suite, and helps them to bridge and understand how they can start the process of understanding AI, because it is no longer something that you can relegate to your IT team or your CTO. We have to understand how to coach and lead our teams into it. But like I said, everyone is facing this challenge where they see so much information around AI and around machine learning and around deep learning and around generative AI. And it all gets in this big bundle of information that they don't know how to break it down. So I do an AI primer where I help with frameworks and understanding of what are the different technologies that are out there. We have a lot of fun doing it. We do have lots of laughs and entertainment, and we do go through practical application as well as kind of those sorts of frameworks and ways of thinking about it. So literally everyone who walks out of this 2.5 hour training, doesn't feel that sense of fear in stepping into the space. And that can be very important for an executive. We also do a lot of trainings where you can subscribe also on our Final Upgrade kind of website for all sorts of information. We do trainings that are also around prompt engineering, on how to develop specific use cases for your company, how to develop your AI business strategy, etc. So you can reach out and we can customize almost something very specific to each company, because by definition, every company has very different needs, very different specifics. We work with a lot of finance companies to figure out how they can, for example, craft up and write their analytics reports automatically. A lot of customer service companies so that we can help them to craft up messaging. And again, this is all in training formats. We actually train the people internally at a company to understand how to use this technology and get started, and also how to start to train AI evangelists within an organization so that they can take it forward. I'm a big fan of not being reliant on consultants that have to sit outside the company. This is something that has to be pulled in. And within every single organization, there are people that really want to be involved in the space. They may not know how to raise their hands for it, but you will find them left, right, and center if you ask for them and ask who is interested in learning about the space. And then you can focus on upskilling them, which I think is one of the best ways is to find AI ambassadors for the cause.
Thank you. So the next one coming up is an artificial intelligence primer lunch. This is on the
Yes.
3rd of April, 2024, this year, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Yes. So join
Yeah.
us. You can always drop me a note. I'm sure I can share also the details for that. We hold those events on about a monthly basis in order to just cover the AI primer. And then over the course of the year, we're always announcing additional sessions and additional discussions in addition to the thought leadership stuff that we put out.
Fantastic. I'm going to put a link to your website right below this video.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about ethical AI development. Moving on to AI ethics. Dominique, what principles do you think are crucial for ensuring AI is developed and used responsibly? And how can companies ensure they are on the right side of this?
Yeah. So ethics has been one of the biggest topics with AI since AI pretty much was founded. The natural bias that exists with any sort of data that is provided to the system is unfortunate, but true. What really has changed in the system is now you have people who don't have a machine learning or AI background that literally are starting to make decisions based on that technology. And they don't understand some of the finer things around understanding bias and how to fight it. So one of the biggest things that I am a proponent of is education, understanding that space. And as long as you are using it responsibly and you understand where that inherent bias could exist. So it's everything from, you can have recruitment bots that are favoring men over women. You can have a lot of stuff that is looking through, okay, so who should we be targeting in terms of communication, and all of the language tends to be masculine. Or if you even look at generative AI, a very interesting thing happened not too long ago. I was organizing a dinner party. So on a more personal note, organizing a dinner party. And I wanted to put up a couple of photographs on the invitation of what this dinner party was going to look like. And I said, a diverse group, and this is a dinner party that's supposed to happen in Singapore, a diverse group of ladies gathering together in the garden in order to have an interesting conversation around Article Club. So I asked generative AI. Now, I'm a relatively good expert on all of this, but it took me forever to figure out how to put together a diverse group. Why? If I say diverse group, I get a whole bunch of Americans or Western Caucasians, and then I get one Black person, no Asians. I would say, okay, diverse group of, because we're based in Singapore, I would say Asians and Caucasians sitting together. Okay, now to give me all Asians. Wait, hold on. Diverse group, both of them put together, half and half, let's say. No, we couldn't crack it because it couldn't quite understand, why would this group of people get together? It's not because it's racist. It's just been trained on data where it's trying to identify and guess what you want. And it hasn't been asked that very often. And so very often they're looking for faces of people that are the same races or the same kind of background. The most important thing is really just understanding how to start to work with this technology. And really anyone who is responsible for that sort of programming has to understand some of the basics. You see a lot of legislation now coming out in Europe, in the US, that is all about how much we can empower technology in order to make decisions. So they banned the idea that AI can make any decision that is a black box. In other words, if the computer cannot explain to us why that decision was made, we cannot just rely on the computer. Why? Because it wouldn't grant loans to people who are impoverished. It wouldn't grant loans to women. It wouldn't grant loans to immigrants. Why? Because, okay, if you take statistically the amount of the population, potentially they're a slightly higher risk group. But we can't just deny people based on all of their ethnicity. You have to go a lot deeper. And so now regulation is coming into play in order to help that, but you also have to have the side of the company that's actually making sure that none of that is used incorrectly. And I think the third piece is very much around privacy. We have to be careful on how much information is getting out there, what is training it up, and actually where would this information end up? I hear people all the time that are very worried about putting information into, let's say, a ChatGPT or Gemini, and where's it going to go? And at what point might it spit it out somewhere else? I think I'm a little bit less worried about that, because in my mind, if that melts down and they can hack or find out everything that has been fed into the system, let's just say we're all in a lot of trouble because that is going to be pervasive. There are millions of people using it every day. And the amount of information that has been put into it, or that is constantly being put in, if there's a way that later the system is going to start spitting it out, then there's no hope then. So, if it takes down everyone from a certain level, we just have to make sure that what information we're being put in, or that we're putting into it, is very fair.
It's a little bit ironic when people start to worry about what information is going to be captured by ChatGPT when half their life is on Facebook.
It's true. It's true. What people don't like is not knowing. If you put something on Facebook, you know that you put it out there. I think the challenge with ChatGPT or one of these systems where you're putting it out is you don't expect it to pop up, and the fear that it might, that's where it starts to cause an issue. I don't know. My mom always raised me and said, don't ever do anything in your life that you wouldn't want published on the front page of the newspaper. Now, I'm pretty sure she wasn't referring to any of my business activities, but or any of the AI workshops that I'm doing. But it's true. Don't put anything there into the system that if it somehow popped out on the other side, it would really cause either business risk or impact or personal strife.
Right. Very good advice your mom gave you. Now let's touch on the future workforce. In a world shaped by artificial intelligence and blockchain. How do you envision the future of work? What advice would you give to professionals looking to stay ahead of the curve?
Oh, I could talk on this for hours. How long do we have? Look, AI is
Three
going to
minutes.
replace jobs. 3 minutes. All right. No, AI is going to replace a lot of jobs. And as much as
Right.
people hate to say that, it's true. It's going to replace the jobs of those people who haven't either upskilled themselves or their company hasn't upskilled them. So there's going to be less of those jobs. On the other hand, there's going to be a whole nother renaissance of other jobs that will appear, but those people are not going to get those jobs. There's a reason why they didn't stay in the company, that they couldn't hold on to it. And those jobs are all going to be AI empowered jobs. So what I worry about the future of the workplace is how are we going to train all of these people that end up left behind? I'm based in Singapore. They have fantastic skills trainings programs, future skills program that literally goes and ensures that all of the population has, I think it's $4,000 worth of training every year that
Yep.
you can access. Like, that's incredible. In Singapore, everyone has a chance to continue to upskill and understand some of the latest technology that's out there. But if you look at other countries, who's going to do that upskilling? Because people aren't used to having to go and pull and understand it and pull it from the internet and study themselves. We have to go and help them to craft that. And especially when it comes to impoverished nations or just in general, impoverished communities that don't know how to upskill themselves, that's where my big worry is. If you're looking at professionals who are looking to stay ahead of the curve, look, I run into them every day because I'm doing trainings literally for people who are like, actually, I want to be in the 1%. To be in the 1% right now means you will be ahead of the game the rest of your career. To take the step now before everything is in overwhelm. So I'll give you an example. In 2013, I started looking at crypto and blockchain and Bitcoin and all of these different projects. And I thought, wow, this is overwhelming. But I sat down and I read the Bitcoin white paper. Now, it's 9 pages long. It took me about 3 days. If anyone's ever read it, it's not the easiest document. You read one sentence, then you have to go and cross-reference what the hell that meant. No idea. Very confusing. But once you read that as the fundamentals, every single time I see a project, I can understand exactly where it fits and why it developed that way and how it got there, because you understand the absolute fundamentals of that technology. From there, you can start to build. The future of the workplace right now is like, here's a tool, here's another tool. You've got lots of tools. Maybe try this. Look on LinkedIn at all the logos, look at all these different programs. And of course, people have no idea. How do you start to build a framework around using those tools? How do you start to understand the actual underlying technology? There is no education in order to give them the ability to comprehend things themselves. And that's kind of what I teach, what I feel is very important. You should see all the mental health issues that are right now facing professionals that are very clever, intelligent people, but they don't know where to step first. And so it's up to companies that are leaders in the space, international multinationals, in order for them to be able to start the education process, in order to upskill people into these new roles and be able to ensure that there's a lot more security, transparency, understanding of that sort of technology. So start with the fundamentals. And the most important thing is just take the first step. Don't be AI lazy, because you know what? The overwhelm that you feel right now, a year from now, it's going to be a tidal wave. And 2 years from now, it's going to be a tsunami, right? So it's easier now to take those first steps, really get up to speed, and then you'll be very similar to what I said. Then every time you see a project, you go, oh, I understand that. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Oh, that's how that all relates together. If you understand those fundamentals, you almost have a coat rack to hang every hat or every jacket. You can start to fill everything into buckets and categories and understand how it evolved.
Thank you. It's a good thing my son is actually studying artificial
Oh,
intelligence
good.
in Polytechnic right now. Initially, we wanted him to study cybersecurity, but then again, when he went into artificial intelligence, that's when everything started to pick up about AI. And we were saying, thank God he got into that.
Good timing. AI has gone through several AI winters.
Mhm.
But winter's over. we're now in very similar to crypto. I think one of the biggest bull runs that's going to happen with AI, because of the fact that adoption rates are so large and now everyone can touch it, you're going to find more and more demand for solutions in the space, everything from data and analytics side of things, and how do you work with your own data, to how do you build customer solutions in the space. So it's very important to understand what your AI strategy is. And for all of that, you need experts in AI. So commend him, and maybe Dad also, for helping to guide a good decision. It sounds like either choice, cybersecurity or AI or blockchain, these are all fantastic areas to go focus on in your career.
Great. Now, let's touch on disruption in traditional industries. Dominique, from your vantage point, which traditional sectors are ripe for disruption by AI and blockchain? And tell us also, how can these industries adapt to not just survive, but thrive?
I almost feel like there isn't an industry that won't be disrupted and won't change. There's very few. Like, even if you think about the automotive industry, I mean, think about this technology just in terms of AI and our ability to now tell computers what we want. I don't know if you saw OpenAI launch that they're going to have a robot. We've been all waiting for who's going to lead in this space. But this technology is amazing. I mean, robots are not inexpensive to build, but they're very also expensive to sorry, did I just say not expensive? They are expensive to build, but they're also very expensive to program and figure out how they can then start to operate. The entire LLM technology now allows us to communicate with robots. So the technology has already been there a year, where you can almost walk into a construction plant and go, you know what, put me a robot here, and I want it to go to pick up that thing and stick it together with this thing like that. And please, and like, or go get me a coffee and it's in the kitchen. Like, that technology is the sort of technology that LLMs, now that humans can communicate with it, have opened up massive amount of doors. So even robotics and automation in an industry that is the most advanced, which is the automotive industry, is going to still continue to see massive change. You'll also see driverless cars. You'll see new like EV vehicles. You'll see all sorts of unmanned vehicles and vessels and everything along those lines. So if you look at like even traditional industries like that, how much change. But I really think the core is going to be in places like customer service and professional services. And I say that realizing I'm the head of a professional services agency in Asia. The Hoffman Agency obviously focuses on a lot of AI, so we're likely to do a little bit better than everybody else. But that being said, this amount of change is going to impact, and it's going to be a company destroying and an industry destroying technology. Now, is it going to happen over 1 year? No. Is it going to happen over 5 and 10? Yes, because that amount of change will snowball over time. And when it starts to amount to increased competition, you'll end up with a lot more monopolies that are able to bring technology in and move faster. And you just won't need as many companies out there that are in professional services or in customer service or in any of these kind of very traditionally high touch environments. I constantly am surprised at the sales teams that I meet very often that say, but AI can't do it as well. They're already coming up with really fantastic technology that can do cold calling, that can read emotions. There's technology out there that can read emotions of whoever you're calling, that can respond very quickly to your calls. I don't know if you've seen Air AI. I talk about it very often in my AI primers to show actually how quickly this can start to change. And even the Klarna example I gave a little bit earlier, when you start to see that disrupting an entire industry, that's it. Like, once your competitor has that technology, you don't have a choice to upskill. You just have to go and you have to bring technology in to replace people, because it's just going to be the most efficient, most effective, and the only way really to survive.
Do you think anytime in the near future, scam call centers will be taken over by AI?
Oh God, I hope not. but we know it's going to happen.
Nobody wants to be scammed by a robot.
Yeah, well, and it's a big conversation that we have. Actually, we'll be having an event that will also be next month that is all about deepfakes and AI for cybersecurity. So a topic your son would be very interested in. We'll be doing it in Singapore and also virtually. talking about literally the impact of AI within scams or fraud protection and detection, as well as hacking or phishing schemes. I don't know if you saw the thing that happened maybe it was about a month and a half ago out of Hong Kong, the deep fake incident.
Yeah.
That that I think they transferred $20 million to somebody else
Hmm.
because literally you had an AI avatar that called you, that's your boss, that said, you know what, like I need you to do these transfers, and the person looks, speaks, is exactly like your boss. So how do we prevent that? We have to stay 5 steps ahead of the game. Right now, everything that's in cybersecurity is more about very targeted cybersecurity. So there's all of the phishing schemes and everything, but now it's like, hey, there's Joe. Let's go target Joe. We need specifically his password and his information in order to get into the system. And if you think about it, they just, you said it right yourself, so much of your information is put out on Facebook on where you are, what you do, how you behave, that it's very easy to start to game people. And AI gives you the tools in order to do that, both with deep fakes as well as phishing opportunities. It's going to become a very scary space. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, a lot of people are going to be victims of this in the near future. The best way that we can combat that is very often using technology in order to detect other technology, because we can rely on intuition and us being awfully clever. But I can tell you this, AI is pretty smart.
Well, that's rather scary, but this is something that we need to educate, not just the elderly. In Singapore, so many elderly people are getting scammed. Youngsters are
Yeah.
getting scammed by going into loan shark scams. The elderly, some are even falling for love scams. So we need to step up our game with the education of people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the next generation will have to be very savvy on all of these things.
Hmm.
But I, similar to yourself, am more worried about the elderly or people who weren't raised around this level of technology.
Mm.
But we're seeing also, the Singapore government is starting to come up with technology that can block calls that are doing spoof calls, or
Yep.
additionally mark them as possible calls that are scams, et cetera, at least trying to kind of help on the process. But it's difficult because you get somebody who adds you as your WhatsApp and can imitate the voice of your grandson, who actually says, gosh, I'm traveling in Bali, which he happens to be, and they're
Hmm.
spoofing his phone. Like, I don't know how you prevent against that when it's somebody who doesn't know and doesn't have the instruments and the techniques in order to check on it. Even this scam that happened, that was the boss avatar video calling, and
Yeah.
everyone said, oh, you have to have code words that you're using internally. And I said, what makes you think that they won't be able to hack those code words? So now that
Hmm.
becomes the easiest way actually to convince anyone. All you have to do is figure out what the code words are, where they're written or whatnot. And that actually will be the easiest way to hack somebody, because now you can prove through a code word that it's you. I think we have to rely on technology. So Leica came out with a camera, for example, that if you take photos from it, it literally makes it impossible for anyone to copy it. And if you put it even to an LLM and try to train it on that data, it cannot assimilate it. There's other ones that if you have some sort of photographs or things online, you can put a specific data, a point and a code, and AI and a lot of this technology cannot scrape it. It cannot see it. So I think it's a little bit more of also a protective mechanism. But we also have to, like, there's been a lot of hacking. There's been a lot of cybersecurity information that's gotten out in the past. So we have to understand the information is already out there, and you just have to be ready for it.
Right. Now, let's touch on understanding crypto and blockchain regulations. The landscape for crypto and blockchain is actually quite amazing. What key advice, Dominique, do you have for navigating these complexities while fostering innovation?
Yeah, it's difficult because it all depends on where you're living. A lot of these projects are obviously also global. The most important thing is to just have a very open dialogue with government and with the regulatory bodies. And we're lucky that, for example, in Singapore, it's a very transparent system. You can reach out to them. Even like, for example, MAS has so much that they do in the fintech space, where they just have open doors in order to guide and help people. Hong Kong is also leading in the space in blockchain and crypto, so that they can kind of help to regulate it properly. I think the biggest piece is just to have very compliant infrastructure and information and ensure that you're having an open dialogue and communication with stakeholders and regulatory bodies. That being said, a lot of the projects that are out there are obviously relatively new. Some of them fall under enforcement for some sort of banking license, or a lot of the tokenization projects have to be registered. I think that does lend a certain level of credibility in order to get kind of a gold standard where you can sort of start to rise above a lot of the controversy and the doubt that's in the sector. So if there's an opportunity to then partner with government, partner with the regulatory bodies, I think you absolutely should, because that way you can do it under their guidance and ensure that you're in alignment with where the government is going.
Right. Now, before we go, lastly, as we look toward the future, how do you see AI, blockchain, and cryptocurrency coming together to reshape our world? What do you think is going to be the most exciting possibility this convergence is going to hold?
Very tough one. I think one of the cool things is very much smart cities. I always use this example of, I'm sure you've seen the project, The Line, Neom, that's in Saudi Arabia, where it's this huge, absolutely gorgeous building that they're building out in the middle of the desert. And it's going to be an entire community and smart city that is based on the latest of technologies, whether it's AI, blockchain, IoT, really starting to integrate all of the needs of the community with how you can use technology in order to bring it in. Then it becomes very much a question of something we just talked about, is how do you bring everyone along for that ride? Because the younger generation, of course, you give them an iPad, they'll control the entire city and control their house, push all the buttons and figure it all out. But are we leaving behind the older generation that wouldn't be as used to assimilating that sort of information and technology? I'm also really inspired by everything that's in the DAO space. So decentralized autonomous organizations. There's a lot of very interesting projects out there that are really democratizing everything in finance, in terms of investment, in terms of market making. Personally, we're invested in Reform DAO, that is just an absolutely spectacular project that allows tokens and individual projects to be able to get to market making without having to go to some of the bigger exchanges, which tend to mean that only a couple of projects get through. But here it really democratizes a lot of that. Supply chain will be a really big one, because that integrates a lot of AI, blockchain, and IoT in the same space. And anything that pretty much has to do with security and trust is a very big space for blockchain technology and AI. Generally, it's just the democratization of access to everything, the convergence of all of these spaces to make everyone's lives easier and better. The examples I give obviously don't impact big corporates or like banks or whatnot, because I see all of this technology is actually the impact on the average everyday human being and our life, and how it gives that access to technology really helps us to create a better life for everyone. So very excited to be working in all of those spaces as they all converge. And who knows where we'll be in a couple of years.
Thank you so much, Dominique, for your time with us and gracing our show. Before we go, do you have any final words to that one person out there who doesn't know much about AI, who doesn't know much about crypto, not so much about technology, but he wants to take a step, but is still afraid? What do you want to say to this guy?
It's all about the first step. Don't try to anticipate where you have to be in a couple of years. Pick one topic, pick one book. That's how I started. I didn't go try to learn AI at the same time as blockchain, at the same time as diving into crypto investing, which is a completely other crazy tool set that you have to go and learn. If you try to do that, you won't get there. But it's all incremental. And if you look at over the course of your life, if you're just learning a little bit every day, a year from now, you can be in the 1%. You can be absolutely a leader in this space, because we underestimate actually how many people make that time and make that effort to take a step forward. And I use a little bit in a lot of the sessions, like the stick factor and the carrot factor, in order to kind of go back and forth between what motivates people. But, loss of jobs, being left behind, those are all fear factors. There's an entire other universe that's out there. I mean, I work for the Hoffman Agency. Our internal slogan is Geeks at Heart. This entire week, I spent a huge amount of time talking about graph technology, graph databases. Like, most people have no idea what this is, but it's like this massive technology that exists. That's how you structure data together so that it can understand the interdependencies of different data. In other words, you take a company's information and you lock it all together so that literally you can go and read it and see all of the synergies and the business impact and make decisions based on it, rather than having to go and look at, okay, that database, and then you go look there, and computers can't stitch it all together. Like, once you learn that this is actually fun, come at it from a point of curiosity, not from a need to understand everything, but just from an understanding that this is cool. And guess what? This technology isn't going anywhere. So you might be able to get away with not getting up to speed on blockchain and crypto. You didn't necessarily miss the boat on investing, but I'm talking about technology. You think about it from the ABCD. Like, A is AI, right? A really key piece of everyone's world. B, blockchain. C is cybersecurity. And D is data and analytics. Those are the four main things that you should at least try to get a very base understanding in order to ensure the future of work and that you can be successful in the future.
Thank you so much, Dominique. Really appreciate you sharing this with our viewers. Now, as we conclude this insightful session with Dominique, the founder and Chief Operating Officer of the Blockchain and Crypto Association of Singapore and Managing Director of the Hoffman Agency's Asia Pacific operations, we are reminded of the profound impact that visionary leadership and technological innovation can have on shaping the future of business and society. Our conversation today traversed the expansive territories of AI in global communications, the transformative journey of blockchain technology, the evolving landscape of cryptocurrencies, and the ethical development of AI, offering a glimpse into the future workforce and the sectors ripe for disruption. For those inspired to delve deeper into these topics or to connect with Dominique's pioneering work, look out for the links and resources in the description below. We encourage you to share your thoughts and reflections in the comment section and to subscribe for more enlightening discussions with leaders who are not just part of the tech conversation, but are actively molding the future. I'm Francis Michael, and it has been a pleasure to bring you this episode of the Chamber Guy's Global Business Innovator Series. Until we meet again, let's keep pushing the boundaries of innovation, exploring the potential of technology, and embracing the transformative power of visionary leadership. Stay tuned for more thought-provoking conversations, and take care until the next time we meet on the Chamber Guys channel. Stay focused, stay connected.